we find in this chapter is mainly dealing with the modes of material nature. So in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 13.22, Krishna mentions about how living entities, how the jiva comes in contact with matter. And in the 13.22, it was mentioned that this contact was possible, made by this contact becomes possible by the supervision of Lord. And karanam gunasangasya sadyasad yoni janmashu. So it was mentioned that modes bind the jiva to this prakriti. Modes bind the jiva. And 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita is especially dealing about what detailed description about Guna Vibhaga Yoga. What are these modes? How to transcend these modes? And especially in one word, how to become Gunatita. So we have one very classic example of Gunatita. Like we find Param Puja Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. It's really means if you hear last few days we had so much glorification sessions and almost till now it is going on. Hours and hours from morning 8 o'clock till night 10 o'clock we had glorification sessions. How is it that one personality is able to attract so many people? Like I was in Vrindavan Dham, and in Vrindavan Dham, many Russians had come, many South Africans had come, many even devotees from Pakistan had come. And so, how is it? Just a minute, bro. 1 minute. Just give me 1 minute. Sorry, bro. Unfortunately, when I was speaking about this, one devotee just passed away. One devotee left his body. So some emergency was there. Had to arrange some. So we find especially this entire 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita is talking about how to become Gunatita. And I was giving example of Param Pujya this Gopal Krishna Maharaj, how so many devotees from different parts of world, they were coming, they were appreciating, they were glorifying, and I saw some Russian devotee. So all this entire translation, entire this event was happening in Hindi language, Hindi or English language, and Russian devotees were crying. I used to think, Arey, how they are crying? Means how? So when the Russian translation was done for them, and they were hearing that, and they were almost crying, hearing the glories of Maharaj. So only a person who has become Gunatita. Gunatita means one who has overcome these three modes can have such an influence. All of you might have seen the videos also of many videos of Maharaj and all. So this chapter is mainly discussing about how to become Gunatita, that rise above three modes. So in one of the shlokas, so in the 13.1, Krishna is appreciating the knowledge which is going to give. Krishna is telling the knowledge which I am going to give is one of the best knowledge which I have ever given before. And it because it is explaining in the detail how the previous knowledge which I gave is the best one. So basically, the 13th chapter, 13th chapter onwards is mainly meant for analytical study of the spiritual this knowledge, which will help us to take bhakti yoga in a more better manner. So in the 13.1, this was being spoken how the different rishis, different munis, they could they could get liberation by getting this knowledge. So Prabhupada writes, by getting the knowledge of the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, one will attain perfection. Srila Prabhupada writes there. So now coming to we discussed around 7-8 verses about how the contact between Jiva and Prakriti happens in the third and fourth shloka. Then later we also discussed about how modes bind the living entity. How goodness binds one to satisfaction, happiness, one becomes proud. So different modes, how they bind a Jiva, that was being discussed. And now, just to give us a brief summary, what all things we discussed. This is a so this is a small chart which tells us about what is the binding force for mode of goodness. The binding force for mode of goodness is happiness, satisfaction, knowledge, and superiority. And how to understand when the goodness has come. So we can see this symptoms also, and it illuminates the gates of body with the knowledge. So if you see in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there comes one very beautiful story about Puranjana. And Narad Muni is preaching to Puranjan. And that time Narad Muni used an allegorical story. And Narad Muni is preaching to Prachini Bharishan. And that time he is using a very nice allegorical story about Puranjana. He creates a fictitious living entity. Like there is a person called as Puranjana. He lives in a city or Puri, which is made up of 9 gates. And when all these 9 gates are illuminated with the knowledge, so sometimes the question comes, what is the meaning of uh, all the 9 gates of body being illuminated by knowledge? Like I can how to understand my eyes have got goodness, my nose has got goodness, and all the ears have got goodness. So there he mentions that if illumination of gates of body by knowledge means we get a discrimination. We get a discrimination. All discrimination means we use the right sense organ for a right purpose. So ears will be used only to hear something good. If Prajalpa is going on, the ears will close down. Eyes will be used only to see something good, which is helpful. If it is not very conducive, then eyes will close. So like Gandhiji had 3 bandars, Bura mat suno, Bura mat bolo, Bura mat kaho. So he said this discrimination comes, and that is called as illumination of gates of body with the knowledge. But when this is especially for a good person in the mode of goodness. But when a person transcends even mode of goodness, all the gates of body are illuminated only with one thing, not with only knowledge, with service attitude. all the gates of body, they only want to function for rendering service to the Lord. So this is a description. So we discussed, we'll again go from 14 point, I think we discussed till 14.11 last time, or 14.14, Prabhu. Any idea?
Approach it till 13,
30.
14.13.
Okay, so we'll just quickly go through 14.13 onwards. We'll try to complete. So this is quite simpler chapter, but very easy to read, very easy to understand, but very difficult to apply, because Prabhupada is guaranteeing here, anyone who reads this chapter and understands this properly will attain perfection. So 14.13. One devotee can read.
Uh,
Aprakasho
Actually,
pravrittis.
13th is done.
Okay. I'll just maybe. So basically 14.13 was discussing about uh, when there is increase in mode of goodness, ignorance, what are the symptoms? Inertia, madness, and all these things will come. Let's come to 14.14. यदा सत्वे प्रवृद्धे तु प्रलयं याति देहभृत् तद उत्तम विदाम लोकान अमलान प्रतिपद्यते. So
Uh,
yada satve pravruddhe tu, when the mode of goodness increases, pralayam yati, pralayam, at the time of dissolution also one will not. So here it is mentioned, when one dies in the mode of goodness, he will go to the planets of the great sages. So please read the purport.
Akshay Prabhu.
Purport: one in goodness attains higher planetary systems like Brahmaloka or Janaloka, and there enjoys a godly happiness. The word amalam, is significant. It means free from the modes of passion and ignorance. There are impurities in the material world, but the mode of goodness is the purest form of existence in the material world. There are different kinds of planets for different kinds of living entities. Those who die in the mode of goodness are elevated to the planets where great sages and great devotees live.
Yeah. So from 14 point, now we are into 14 point this shloka onwards, where what are the different destination a person will attain when a person dies in the mode. So what are the destination one? So everything is in modes. We find food is in the mode, which will come in the 17th chapter, 16th chapter onwards. So everything, destination at the death. So all these three modes. So it is, we have to choose our modes. So sometimes the question comes, can we really choose our mode, or we don't have any freedom to do that? Because generally it appears that we are overpowered by different modes. So is it that we have a control which mode to choose and which mode not to choose, or is it that somehow modes automatically come? So when we find in the 13th chapter, when we discuss about Pradhan Purusha, modes come at that along with the Mahat Tattva. In Mahat Tattva, when modes also come and then Krishna impregnates the living entities, so modes are already present. Goodness, passion, ignorance to some extent. Like certain amount of goodness is present, certain amount of ignorance is present, certain amount of X, Y, Z, like that. And so by birth, one particular person is in certain mode. But Prabhupada writes, by prescribed method of living and acting, one can change his modes. Like for an example, sometimes if you see in the river, like those who have gone to Triveni or like a different, when the two or three rivers, in one river only, sometimes different currents are there. One current is flowing in this direction. One current is flowing in different direction. Like I remember in Mayapur when we go, there is a river called as Jalangi, and there is river Ganga also. So sometimes a boatman, when a boatman is sailing in the river, so one current is flowing in this direction, one current is flowing in different direction, and sometimes there is another current also in the river. So now if boatman can choose which current to go. Means he has to struggle and endeavor. Now, if he wants to go into this direction, he has to put an endeavor to place the boat in the different current. But somehow when the boat goes into different current, then by default the boat is going to go to that direction. So that endeavor, the choosing, the endeavor and the struggle to choose the mode is in our hands. And when the modes determine the destination. So when once one is situated into one particular mode, the mode is going to decide the destination. So when one dies in the mode of goodness, he attains to the pure higher planets of the great sages. Next one. So now what happens when somebody does into pralayam, rajasi in the mode of passion. 15th verse. Rajasi pralayam gatva karma sangishu jayate तथा प्रलीनस tamasi mudhayoni shujayate. Mudhayoni. So mudhayoni means mudha. The word itself mentions mudhayoni. Mudha means those who are fool or those who are ignorant. And ignorant people are mudhayoni is animal especially. That's why we say na that mudhayoni, the darkest region. नेहा विक्रमनाशोस्ति प्रत्यवायो न स विद्यते स्वल्पमपि अस्य धर्मस्य त्रायते महतो भयात्. So whenever we discuss about the word mahato bhayat, what is the greatest danger? So the greatest danger is to glide down into mudha yoni. Mudha yoni. Okay. Please read, Prabhu.
Aman Prabhu.
Yes, Swajit. Translation. When one dies in the mode of passion, he takes birth among those engaged in fruitive activities. And when one dies in the mode of ignorance, he takes birth in the animal kingdom. Purport. Some people have the impression that when the soul reaches the platform of human life, it never goes down again. This is incorrect. According to this verse, if one develops the mode of ignorance, after his death, he is degraded to an animal form of life. From there, one has to again elevate himself by an evolutionary process to come again to the human form of life. Therefore, those who are actually serious about human life should take to the mode of goodness and in good association transcend the modes and become situated in Krishna consciousness. This is the aim of human life. Otherwise, there is no guarantee that the human being will again attain to the human status.
Yeah. So this impression is incorrect. That after coming to human life, we will never go down. So based on what kind of life we are living currently, we are preparing our another body. That is what Bhakti is saying here. So which mode we are cultivating in our life? Which mode we are paying more attention? Mode of ignorance, mode of passion, mode of goodness. So this entire chapter is mainly to increase our thought process. This entire chapter is mainly to what we say, activate that part of an intelligence to think that you have to learn to cultivate mode of goodness. Sometimes on the name of being transcendental, we forget this fact that mode of goodness. So every activity which we do, whether it is eating, whether it is sleeping, whether it is job, profession, it is very important that we take such options in our life which enhances mode of goodness. Like once upon a time, I was meeting His Grace Radhesham Prabhu, and I had gone with some kind of difficulties. Prabhuji that time mentioned he said you have to engage in some sattva lifting activities. He said for some particular time of time when he had given me assignment, he said for next 6 months to overcome this kind of difficulties, he said you have to engage in a sattva lifting activities. So he asked me some particular sevas to be rendered. He said take use it what do chandan seva for the Lord, do this chandan seva for the Lord, make chandan for the Lord. Then he said do mahat seva, read the life of acharyas. So he said what is conducive for sattva guna. So generally what happens is why we have a difficulty currently, there is a great challenge, although we may want to be in sattva guna, but our profession, our lifestyle, and our even for a brahmachari or a preacher also it may become difficult, because generally we have so many activities to be rendered for pleasure of Lord only. They are although transcendental activities, but by default, the activity takes person into mode of passion. Like a construction is there, or some management is there. Generally, it is tough to be in goodness and do such activity. But that's why I decided we have to become transcendental to these modes. But before becoming transcendental, if it's generally helpful if we come to the mode of goodness. So mode of goodness is a very stable platform by which we can take off the flight to mode of. So when one dies in the mode of passion, he again takes birth amongst those engaged in the fruitive activities. So what are the fruitive activities? Fruitive activities means karma bhumi. So we'll take birth in a karma bhumi. So generally those planets like earthly planets or even heavenly planets, when again one can create karma or exhaust karma, wherever one can either create a karma or exhaust his karma, there only he will take birth. That is in the mode of passion. And one dies in the ignorance, he goes into the animal kingdom. So this is all destination. So till now in the three verses 14, 15 and 16, we discussed about what is the destination of a person when he dies in these three modes. Now from 16 to 18, 16 to 18, the discussion will come about when any action is performed in goodness, what will be the result? When any action is performed in passion, what will be result? And when any action is done in ignorance, what will be the result? So 16 to 18 will discuss about result of action in goodness, passion, and ignorance. So let's read 16th verse. कर्मण सुकृता स्याहु सात्विकं निर्मलं फलं रजसस्तु फलं दुःखम अज्ञानं तमस फलम.
Neil Prabhu. Anil Prabhu.
Action is pure, said to be in the mode of goodness, but action done in the mode of passion results in misery, and action performed in the mode of ignorance results in foolishness. Purport also have to read, Pooja.
Yes, bro.
The result of pious activities in the mode of goodness is pure. Therefore, the sages who are free from all illusion are situated in happiness. But activities in the mode of passion are simply miserable. Any activities for material happiness is bound to be defeated. If, for example, we want to have a skyscraper, so much human miseries has to be undergone before a big skyscraper can be built. The financier has to take much trouble to earn a mass of wealth, and those who are slaving to construct the building have to render physical toil. The miseries are there. The Bhagavad Gita that in any activity performed under the spell of the mode of passion, there is definitely great misery. There mental happiness. The result, as far as the mode of ignorance is concerned, the performer is without knowledge, and therefore all his activities results is present. Afterward, he will go on towards anything right. Animal life is always miserable. Although under the spell of the illusory energy, Maya, the animal do not understand this. Slaughtering poor animals is also due to the mode of ignorance. The animal killers do not know that in the future the animal will have a body suitable to kill them. That is the law of nature. In human society, if one kills a man, he has to be hanged. That is the law of the state. Because of ignorance, people do not perceive that there is a complete state controlled by the Supreme Lord. Every living creature is a son of the Supreme Lord, and he does not tolerate even an ant being killed. One has to pay for it. So indulgence in animal killing for the taste of the tongue is the grossest kind of ignorance. A human being has no need to kill animal because God has supplied so many things. If one indulge in meat eating anyway, it is to be understood that he is acting in an ignorance and making his future very dark. Of all kinds of animal killing, the killing of cows is most vicious because cow give us all kind of pleasure by supplying milk. Cow slaughter is an act of the grossest type of ignorance. In the Vedic literature, Rig Veda 9.46.4, the word Govi Pranita Mastram indicate that one who fully One being fully satisfied by milk, which desirous to killing the cow is in the grossest ignorance. There is also a prayer in the Vedic literature. Jagadetaya Go Krishnaya Gopindaya Namo Namaha. My Lord, you are the well-wisher of the cows and the brahmanas, and you are the well-wisher of the entire world. Which is giving layer to the cows and the brahmanas. Brahmanas are the symbol of spiritual education, and cows are the symbols of most valuable food. These two living creatures, a brahmana and a cow, must be modern society is spiritually connected in the path of its own condemnation. A civilization which guides to become certainly not the human civilization. The present human civilization is of course grossly muscular, mode of passion and ignorance. It is very dangerous agent. Great consciousness to save humanity from the greatest danger.
Yes. So this was mainly discussing about that Satvat Sanjayate 14.16. And you're able to hear me, na, bro?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So this was mainly discussing about Srila Prabhupada is focusing a lot here on this cow slaughter and how cows are the most dear to the Lord. And he also quoted this prayer from the Vedic literature, Rig Veda, and the different literatures, Namo Brahmana Devaya, Go Brahmanitaya cha. So, Karmanah Sukruta Syahu, Satvikam Nirmalam Phalam, Arjasastu Phalam Dukkham, Ajnanam Tamasa Phalam. So what is the result of action in these three different modes? So result of action in the mode of goodness is pure, and it is said it in mode of goodness. Action done in the passion results into misery, and action performed in ignorance results into foolishness. So is mentioning here. This purport is very beautiful. Some of the very powerful points. Srila Prabhupada is giving here examples. How activities in the mode of passion are simply miserable. So Prabhupada gives an example of skyscraper building, that someone has to construct this very huge skyscraper misery. So he said from beginning also it is miserable, while undergoing that activity also it is very miserable, and at last it gives some little happiness, but again there is a misery. So he said Prabhupada is giving an example how financier has to take so much struggle to earn the so much amount of wealth and construct the building, and so much toil and blood is gone. So there are miseries. So he said one simple thing. But any activity performed in the mode of passion is equal to misery. Prabhupada is equating there. Mode of passion is equal to misery. And he said there can be only mental happiness is there. Prabhupada is writing there. Now, mode of ignorance is equal to foolishness. So if you equate this equation, mode of ignorance is equal to foolishness. Because in ignorance, all the actions are performed without knowledge. And that's why it results into before also misery, after also misery, and totally he even doesn't know only what is happening with him, where he's going in his life. Prabhupada is giving example of again here is slaughtering poor animals. So we find, as I was discussing, do we have a freedom to choose the mode? So by birth, a particular person is given a particular person comes with certain sets of conditionings and certain sets of modes. But by prescribed method of living and acting, one can work upon changing his modes. So, like an example is given. Sometimes in a family, a person is accustomed to eating meat. He's accustomed to eating meat. So entire his family tradition and entire dynasties and all ages together, they only know eating meat. They don't know the concept of vegetarian food only, suppose. Like some people in the tribal area or some different areas, they may not know even vegetarian food concept only. So a person may not be exactly into that mode, but because he has lived a life like that, so by default option which comes to him, whenever any food is being asked, what he will say? Non-veg only. Because by default option which comes is based on what he has lived life and what he has acted upon. So by default, choice will come. Like sometimes devotees go to internet, right? We go to internet and sometimes we want to do Google search, and recommendations do come for us. Sometimes recommended, this is recommended for you, recommended cycles, recommended. So we can immediately understand a devotee's nature by based on seeing his Google search history. Like sometimes we do like that. Whenever I want to know about devotee, I just go to his YouTube channel. I ask Prabhu, can you just give me YouTube? And we check his YouTube, and immediately the recommended videos come. We immediately come to know, oh, what kind of video he watches and what kind of nature a person is placed in. If he's watching all Bollywood movies, then we can immediately understand, because that recommendations are only going to come as this one. If he's watching particular Maharaj, that recommendations are going to come. So similarly, mind has a nature of auto recommendation. So auto recommendation will be in the mode of ignorance, because he has lived a life like that. So auto recommendation will be that option. But now, like sometimes after coming to association of devotees, a devotee changes his modes. Like, so we find early morning time. Early morning time, Brahma Murta is predominantly in the mode of goodness. How is it possible that some time which is predominantly in the mode of goodness, but 90% of the world is sleeping at that time? And sleeping at that time is an activity in the mode of ignorance. So if you see the time which is in the mode of goodness, but the activity which a person is doing is in the mode of ignorance. And we find night time is generally in the mode of ignorance. So even devotees go to bed by 9 p.m., 8 p.m., animals go to bed by 7 p.m. And that is the time of mode of ignorance. But how is it that so many living entities like Pune, Mumbai, if you go, night 12 o'clock also if you go, you will find there is a great amount of passion. So we find although times are in modes, different activities are in modes, but now we have a freedom. We have a freedom by prescribed method of living and acting to work upon changing our modes. So here Srila Prabhupada is mainly emphasizing on results of action in the three different modes. So one basic equation is mode of passion is equal to misery, mode of ignorance is equal to foolishness, and mode of goodness is equal to happiness. So we find sometimes after coming such a person who is coming from a meat eating background, but when he gets a higher taste, he starts eating sweet rice and gulab jamuns and rasgullas. He stops those activity. Now he never takes that meat again. Why? Because he has got the higher taste. He has till now by default option was for him was eating meat. But now by changing his method of acting and living, he has worked upon changing his mode. So similarly, we can also, by default, we may be in certain mode. We may be in mode of passion, ignorance, and all. But by our free will, we can work upon changing our modes. We can change our activities. We can change our way of living and acting. So this will help us to change the modes. So this entire description now in the upcoming section, verse number 19 to verse number 27 is mainly discussing about how to transcend the modes, how to work upon changing our modes. Although it is very easy to say that we can change our modes, it is in our hands, but we need help of some very special personality to overcome this, and that is Lord Krishna. So in the verse number 19 to 27, all this knowledge was mainly meant to give us discrimination, because most of the people are not in a discrimination only. Like I sometimes I see even devotees, sometimes they are not aware of what kind of food to eat in what time. Like in Ayurveda, if you go, Ayurveda recommends you dinacharya. Dinacharya means what are the foods to be eaten in the morning, afternoon, evening. So one day I was seeing one devotee at night 11 o'clock he was drinking lassi. So I said, प्रभु क्या हुआ, लस्सी पीते हो रात को 11 बजे? हाँ ठीक है, आपको अच्छा लगता है. Or next day, I can say you next. I can easily predict. We can easily predict what will be the result next day. Result will be cold, cough, and all. Like naturally, na cold will come, cough will come, because the night time is that food is not conducive. So most of the people are not even having that discrimination power only. What to do when, what is to be done when. So this all the knowledge of boards is barely there to give us discrimination. So discrimination is sufficiently given now. That okay, we have come to the conclusion that okay, Prabhu, I understood now. Mode of passion is not helpful for me. because that mode of ignorance is also not suitable. Now we have got discrimination. What is to be done, what is not to be done. But now, how to transcend this mode? So gnana is given to discriminate, and now this discrimination will appreciate by this discrimination. One should appreciate that he is not this body. He is Krishna is supreme, and he should take shelter of Krishna. So when we understand how modes are acting, we understand something is beyond us is acting. I am forced to do this activity. I don't want to do this activity. Somebody is forcing me to do this activity. Then we understand I am not the doer only. There is someone above me. Their modes are acting, and then super soul is there. So at least one will come to know that I am not this body, and Krishna is supreme Lord. And we need a help of a person who has placed us in this body to come out of this body. So only a person who has put us into this bodily condition can help us to come out of this bodily condition. So we find Krishna has placed us into this bodily condition of life because of our desire. So now if we make appropriate desires, then Krishna will again take us from this bodily condition. So in the 19th verse is going to speak about how actually modes are only doing every activity. It may appear that I am doing that particular activity, but if you see how modes are the doers, so see the modes are the doers. So we should have this vision that modes are the doers of activities. I am only the chooser of mode, and modes later do the activity. So verse number 19. Yes, bro, someone can read.
Prabhuji, are we done with 17th and 18th?
Okay, we'll just quickly go 17, 18. Almost we covered, but means I covered in that short brief. We'll read the verse and translation anyway, because just few verses are remaining. Satvat sanjayate jnanam rajaso lobha eva cha pramada moho tamaso bhavato jnanam eva cha.
Aniruddha Prabhu.
Yeah. From the modes of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, greed develops. And from the mode of ignorance, develop foolishness, madness, and illusion. Should I continue with purport, Prabhuji? Since the present civilization is not very congenial to the living entities, Krishna consciousness is recommended. Through Krishna consciousness, society will develop the mode of goodness. When the mode of goodness is developed, people will see things as they are. In the mode of ignorance, people are just like animals and cannot see things clearly. In the mode of ignorance, for example, they do not see that by killing one animal, they are taking the chance of being killed by the same animal in the next life. Because people have no education in actual knowledge, they become irresponsible. To stop this irresponsibility, education for developing the mode of goodness of the people in general must be there. When they are actually educated in the mode of goodness, they will become sober in in full knowledge or things as they are. Then people will be happy and prosperous. Even if even if the majority of the people aren't happy and prosperous, if a certain percentage of the population develops Krishna consciousness and becomes situated in the mode of goodness, then there is the possibility for peace. Peace and prosperity all over the world. Otherwise, if the world is devoted to the modes of passion and ignorance, there can be no peace or prosperity. In the mode of passion, people become greedy and their hankering for sense enjoyment has no limit. One one can see that even if he has enough money and adequate arrangements for sense gratification, there is neither happiness nor peace of mind. That is possible because one is situated in the mode of passion. If one wants happiness at all, his money will not help him. He has to elevate himself to the mode of goodness by practicing Krishna consciousness. When one is engaged in the mode of passion, not only is he mentally unhappy, but but is but his profession and occupation are also very troublesome. He has to devise so many plans and schemes to acquire enough money to maintain his status quo. In that this is all miserable. In the mode of ignorance, people become mad. Being distressed by their circumstances, they take shelter of intoxications and thus they sink further into ignorance. Their further in their future in life is very dark.
Yeah, so again, this discussion about what are the results of action in the different modes. Srila Prabhupada is writing very beautiful point in the purport here. How in the mode of passion, there is neither happiness nor a peace of mind. So we have one very amazing devotee. Now he left body. You know about Srinath Ji Prabhu, right? Srinath Ji Prabhu, you might have heard about Srinath Ji Prabhu, disciple of Paramahansa Radhanath Maharaj. So Srinath Ji Prabhu, he had a habit of in his earlier days of Krishna consciousness, he had a habit of studying the lives of very great people, richest people of the world. So he mentions in one of the lectures that he said because he wanted to become the richest person of the world. He was actually preparing for it. And he said, I studied the life of all the richest people of the world. He said, top 10, top 50, everyone. And he said, he openly says, I can tell you, you read their life history and biographies, autobiographies, and whatever, you study their life, they were never happy at even any moment in their life. It may appear so, he said, they themselves declare. So he gives an example of Rockefeller. All of you might have heard about Rockefeller, very famous story of a Rockefeller. Rockefeller 1, Rockefeller 2, senior Rockefeller, junior Rockefeller. So this Rockefeller was one of the very richest person of the entire United States. It is said he had so much oil industry, so many oil industries that almost most of the petrol pumps and most of the oil and fuel tanks and fuel pumps and everyone was on his name. And fuel is equal to money. So he was one of the richest person of the world. But suddenly the government became envious of him. So he was even so much power was there that he had competitor as government only. Because government said, Arey, this person is so much amount of money that his money is more than even government's amount only. So government became envious of him. And then government wanted to loot his money somehow or other. So government applied a law. Government applied, like nowadays we have a very special law which government puts on anyone. Na? What is that law called as? Anyone, किसी को भी डाउन करना है, किसी का भी हरी बोल करना है तो एक लॉ लगा देते हैं. क्या कहते हैं उसको? कुछ तो कहते हैं ना? Some act they put on that person. And what is that? ED, na? ED. What is ED?
Excise department.
No. Enforcement law, something is there, no? Enforcement.
Enforcement directive.
Enforcement something. So they put an all the case study of the previous Gotala and all that comes and all. So this government also applied a law on him. And they made, you cannot have all the oil tanks on one name. All oil tanks have to be under different names. So they made a division. One person cannot hold this much amount of oil and fuel. So almost is one company was divided into almost many parts, 50, 60 parts it was divided. And then still he was very rich, but he was very worried about this. And government was making different plans to make him means. And one day it actually happened that all his property went away, all his property. And he became such a उतना tragic उसके tragedy हुआ उसके जीवन में, such a richest person of the world and all his money was being taken away. It is said he got a severe health issues in his life. He got, you know what? He got a very severe liver failure. He could not digest any food. And he was almost admitted into hospital. And doctors tell he will die. He cannot digest any food. Whatever he will take, he will vomit. Nothing will digest. Then one of the very richest doctor of the world was invited to work upon his case. One of the topmost doctor. And this doctor was invited and he was asked, what is the medicine for him? So he said, there is only one medicine. Now, what is the medicine? This Rockefeller has to drink mother's milk. Now, this Rockefeller is only 70 years old now and already Buddha. He said, "Arey, how I will have mother, 70-year-old? And even if mother is there, how I will get milk, mother milk? Very impossible." So he said, no, you have to get a mother. You have to hire a mother. You have to get a surrogate mother for you. A surrogate mother. भाड़े पे mother मिलती है. So he said, you have to take a mother. So he said, now who will become mother for a chota bachcha is different part. Who will become mother for such a 70-year-old man? Then they hired a gypsy lady. Gypsy lady means pura ekdam alag type of lady they hired. Very odd, strange looking lady. And she used to come, open his sari and put, "Hey Rocky, come and drink the milk." So they used to call, it was such a humiliating situation for him, such a richest person of the world. It was in the newspapers and all. And he said, such a humiliating situation for him. So we find that despite of so much money, there was never a happiness. There was never a mental peace. And then, like that, Maharaj explains the story of Srinathji Prabhu explained the story of many different personalities. How this money is not equal to happiness. That equation has to be changed. Money used in service of Lord is equivalent to happiness. So now in the 18th verse onwards, so Prabhu, today will end little early. I will only take for till 8:05 because actually I am in Vishakhapatnam now, and very beautiful place just on the sea beach where Srila Prabhupada used to have morning walk, RK Sea Beach. And we are here for all over India youth preachers meeting. All over India youth preachers meeting is there one. So we have Bhagavatam class starting at 8 p.m. only today, 8 a.m. only for next 2 days. So I'll end by 8:05 around. We'll just take one more verse and then we'll end. 18th verse. ऊर्ध्वं गच्छन्ति सत्त्वस्ता मध्ये तिष्ठन्ति राजसा जगन्य गुणवृत्तिस्ता अधो गच्छन्ति तामसा.
Ankush Prabhu. Ankush Prabhu, are you there?
Yeah, sorry. Those who situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets, and those in the abominable mode of ignorance go down to the hellish worlds. In this verse, the results of action in the three modes of nature are more explicitly set forth. There is an upper planetary system consisting of the heavenly planets, where everyone is highly elevated. According to the degree of development of the mode of goodness, the living entity can be transferred to various planets in this system. The highest planet is Satyalok or Brahmalok, where the prime person of this universe, Lord Brahma, resides. We have seen already that we can hardly calculate the wondrous condition of life in Brahmalok. But the highest condition of life, the mode of goodness, can bring us to this. The mode of passion is mixed. It is in the middle between the modes of goodness and ignorance. A person is not always pure, but even if he should be purely in the mode of passion, he will simply remain on this earth as a king or a rich man. But because there are mixtures, one can also go down. People on this earth in the mode of passion or ignorance cannot forcibly approach the higher planet by machine. In the mode of passion, there is also the chance of becoming mad in the next life. The lowest quality, the mode of ignorance, is described here as abominable. The result of developing ignorance is very risky. It is the lowest quality in material nature. Beneath the human level, there are 8 million species of life, birds, beasts, reptiles, trees, etc. And according to the development of the mode of ignorance, people are brought down to this abominable condition. The word tamasaha is very significant here. Tamasa indicates those who stay continuously in the mode of ignorance without rising to the higher mode. Their future is very dark. There is an opportunity for men in the modes of ignorance and passion to be elevated to the mode of goodness, and that system is called Krishna consciousness. But one who does not take advantage of this opportunity will certainly continue in the lower modes.
Yes, bro. So, Prabhupada is writing, there is an opportunity for every man to get elevated to higher modes. And that opportunity is called as this Krishna consciousness movement. So this Krishna consciousness movement, if you read there is one very nice section where Prabhupada writes in the purport, Krishna consciousness will save the humanity at the darkest hour of need. And he said, Prabhupada also writes, Krishna consciousness movement will save people entering into the darkest regions of hell. So tamasa. So tamasa, for those people who are into this tamoguna, there is a hell also called as tamishra. You have seen tamishra, anda tamishra. So tamasa. Tamasa means those people who do not endeavor to come out of the mode of darkness, mode of ignorance. Those who continue to stay in the mode of ignorance again and again, such people are called as tamasa. And Prabhupada writes, the future is very, very dark. But all this tamasa people also have an hope, and that is Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness immediately situates one into goodness and much more than goodness. That is pure goodness. So, and we have a very wonderful examples of Srila Prabhupada changing the life of so many devotees all over the world and even our lives. If we calculate our previous lives, which was in Tamasa only. But by grace of Krishna, Srila Prabhupada, we are now situated into mode of goodness and practicing spiritual life. So Krishna consciousness is the hope. So sometimes our devotee feels very discouraged that once one devotee was sharing, Prabhu, I am not a good preacher. I think I cannot do much. And I am not very great devotee. I cannot do. We find 99% of the world is in mode of tamasa only. The 99% world is in mode of ignorance. So even a devotee who is chanting 1 round, 2 round, 3 round, 4 round also has a great scope of becoming a great preacher. Because all of the people, 99% world is in tamasa only, in ignorance. And this devotee, at least in the mode of goodness, at least is chanting 4 rounds, at least following 4 executive principles. So when somebody preaches 4 executive principle also, then that's a great preaching in the world. So that's why there is one earlier initiative was started by our ISKCON. That was called as GIST. Some of you might be knowing. There was an initiative, and that had one motivation only, that be wise and conquer wise. So this initiative had a main motto to help people to follow 4 executive principles. भक्ति शुद्ध भक्ति का वो गोल नहीं था उसका, शुद्ध भक्ति छोड़ो, कम से कम 4 नियम तो पालन करो, कम से कम इतने गुडनेस में तो आओ. Because when people come to the goodness, then they will have opportunity to take bhakti more seriously. So either give bhakti directly or help people to come to the mode of goodness by following these 4 executive principles. So we stop here, Ru. Anyone has any question? We have just 3-4 minutes. We can take one and then we'll stop. Okay, so all devotees are in mode of Shuddha Sattva. So no questions. So we stop here. वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यः वत्स पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. अनंतकोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय. श्री प्रभुपाद की जय.
I think there is one question, Guruji. JB Prasad.
Yes, Proji.
So in the 15th verse, in the translation, it's mentioned that he who takes birth in the someone. My question is like, as you give an example during that verse, like if one devotee is acting in the service for Krishna only, and he comes into passion like that, but Krishna is telling, I guess, in the 3rd chapter only we get to know that when Arjuna is confused regarding the fructive work and the intelligence, Krishna is telling that somebody is acted on his behalf or engaging in Krishna service, then the modes cannot bind. So you give an example, devotees
Yeah.
are engaged
Yeah, correct.
in
Your
service
example
of
is like Srila Prabhupada also. When Srila Prabhupada, that time when one sannyasi was there, and that sannyasi was in Vrindavan. And he thought, Prabhu, Srila Prabhupada, I have come to Vrindavan for doing Radhe Radhe, chanting and all. And you are engaging him in the construction work. So this construction work, ideally it is service over Krishna. So in service of Krishna, one should not be affected by the modes. And that activity is a transcendental activity. Of course, that activity is a transcendental activity. And if one is very Krishna conscious, he will never be touched by this activity. Like Srila Prabhupada and the pure devotees we find, when they render the seva, like Srila Prabhupada, what kind of activities he has done? He has done construction, and he has done fundraising, he has done court case, he has done everything. Still, he remains with the sattva. But generally, as I said, activities are also in the modes. So when like construction or this passionate activities which we do, now all these passionate activities may be appearing to be in the mode of it is in it is in the it is for the pleasure of Lord, but still that activity, if we are not very Krishna conscious, the activity has an power. This activity itself can has a tendency to dominate us. So activity like some like Gaur Kishoda Babaji Maharaj can go to bathroom also and can chant 64 rounds there also. So because he is transcendental, so any activity done, so he will not be affected by the tamoguna there. But in general, for a devotee, for an ordinary sadhaka, there is a great chances that one will go into mode of ignorance there in the tamoguna. So Srila Prabhupada went to brothel, Srila Prabhupada went to night pubs, and he gave a class. He could deliver Allen Ginsberg there. And that activity was not considered to be in the mode of tamoguna because that was a transcendental activity done there, even in that such a mode, brothel. But ordinary devotee we find, but case history we show that so many devotees who accompanied Srila Prabhupada, although they also participated in those activities, but they were overcome by the modes. The modes became more powerful for them. And then they did not return back along with Srila Prabhupada after going to that house, night clubhouse. So whenever we render some service, although it may be beyond, it is transcendental activity, but we can judge for ourselves. We can judge for ourselves that whether this activity is overpowering me. And you see, even bhakti rendered, like any devotional activity rendered in the mode of passion, although it is devotional activity, but you find that still there will be some disturbance in doing that activity. There will be misery. There will be misery while doing, like somebody does japa in mode of passion, or somebody does uh, any service in the mode of passion. When somebody does so service is transcendental. Service is spiritual. One will not be bound to even one will not be even bound to karma for that. But when somebody is doing that activity in the mode of passion, what happens? The passion will bring about its result. That is misery. There will be fights. There will be quarrels. There will be this. So especially those activities which uplift the sattva when they are done, like japa is there, deity worship is there, or reading scriptures is there. So these are all sattva lifting activities. So when these activities are done, uh, these are conducive. But when some kind of work which we are doing, which is not in fully in mode of passion, then once upon a time, Srila Prabhupada was asked this question. Srila Prabhupada, in a daytime, we have to engage in so many activities which are in mode of passion only. Then how is it possible that I will remain in mode of goodness? Because I have to go to IT job and do this work and this job. And so Srila Prabhupada, this Sankar Shanasarikari Prabhu, he was quoting from there. He said, at least we should do activities which are directly in mode of goodness. Like morning program is there, japa is there. So he said, if somebody does this morning program very nicely, in mode of japa very nicely, say there are very great chances that entire day also he will practice in mode of goodness. So first do those activities, those who are in mode of goodness, and then other activities which are in other modes, there also one will be in the mode of goodness. So very easy to say, but there are side effects. Like you said, if I am engaging in some passionate activity for the pleasure of Lord, like Arjuna is engaging in killing, warfare, that is a passionate activity for the pleasure of Lord. But if one is not very Krishna conscious, then this activity will overpower him, and he will be glide down, he will be forced to glide down to other modes then.
So in conclusion, can we draw that it is that only while doing service, our level of Krishna consciousness or proportion of Krishna consciousness only make the difference?
Surely, bro. Means if we are otherwise, that activity can overpower us. So generally, those activities which are conducive, that's why Varnashram system is there. No? Varnashram system makes a person stable there. Although currently there is no current concept of Varnashram which is functioning well, but a person in the like Brahmana is supposed to do Kshatriya work. He may be very Krishna conscious, but he will not be able to do because that is not उसका birth वाला mode नहीं है उसका birth वाला mode goodness वाला है और एक्टिविटी दे रहे हो उसको एकदम आप पैशनेट वाला बेचारा डिस्टर्बेंस आएगा फ्रस्ट्रेशन आएगा बट क्षत्रिय को दो क्षत्रिय उस एक्टिविटी को ऑटोमेटिकली करेगा पीसफुली करेगा भी उसका मोड से मैचिंग है उसका मोड्स मैचिंग है और भक्ति भी करेगा अच्छे से सो हमें अपना अधिकार देख के चेक करना चाहिए कि मेरा अधिकार कहाँ पे कौन सा एक्टिविटी में मेरा अधिकार है and that activity if I do then I can be peaceful and practice spiritual life properly otherwise थोड़ा डिफिकल्टी होगा बट या अगेन गुरु हैज आस्क्ड सुपीरियर्स हैव आस्क्ड देन कुछ भी चलेगा देन वी कैन वर्क अपॉन एनीथिंग हरे कृष्ण सो विल स्टॉप हियर रू आई हैव टू रश फॉर नाउ क्लास हरे कृष्ण
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.